Hey guys, it's Linton here from Greenbox Markets. I think with the FOMC coming up this evening, I just want to run through the dollar index, where it's standing at the moment, and then also what we could possibly expect to hear from Fed Chair Janet Yellen later this evening. That'll be at 8 o'clock South African time, which is GMT +2. So we have seen a little bit of a recovery in the US dollar, because investors sort of closed out short positions ahead of FOMC this evening. And the reason for that is basically because we're not 100% sure which way the meeting is going to go for the dollar. US data hasn't been great of late, but the economy has improved since the last FOMC meeting. So, for me, the key issue is to hear where we stand in terms of inflation at the moment, because it has actually fallen year on year, so falling quite below what the Fed targets are at this moment, the 2% inflation target. So although there has been an improvement in the economy, there has been a reduction in their well, not a reduction in their target, but there has been a reduction in inflation, so they're not meeting their target, and that's obviously still going to cast a bit of doubt in investors' minds. So there's a couple things that we need to be aware of this evening, and that's going to be, the first thing is that I doubt very, very much whether there will be any change in the interest rate. There's pretty much a zero chance of there being an interest rate hike this evening. But there will perhaps be some kind of indication as to whether the Fed is going to start reducing their asset purchases later this year, possibly even September. So that could give some investors some kind of indication as to what to expect with quantitative easing. And then the final thing that the Fed will have to touch on is the inflation rate, as I mentioned. That is something that they're going to have to explain to investors, and how they're going to change, sort of systems in the economy in order to reach their 2% inflation target. So tonight, I think, could really go either way for the US dollar, but personally I'm expecting that the positives are going to be better than the negatives, or outweigh the negatives. So I think there's going to be some US dollar relief, some strength coming through, but due to the bad data and obviously the inflation and how that affects the market, I don't think it's going to be very long lived at all. So from now until NFP next month, which is in a couple of weeks, I don't think there's going to be much dollar strength coming into the market, and I think we're going to have to wait for NFP results to come through before we actually know whether there is some kind of substance to the dollar at the moment, and whether there is going to be any strength based on good data. So with that said, let's have a look at the US dollar index itself. So this is the index. This is not rated against a specific currency pair. This is obviously against a number of pairs. And here we can see that, there was quite an important trend line which started way back. 2014 was the low here, 30th of the 4th, 2014. This is the low where the dollar index was. And obviously we saw, a lot of strength for a couple of years there up until the third month of 2015. So that was a lot of strength that took place there, and then we've seen quite a bit of sideways, and eventually some strength coming back through, with a final peak here being right at the beginning of this year, 2017. So since then we have seen quite a fall off on the dollar index. We saw this initial structure over here. Let me just draw it in for you. I've got the support and resistance on it, but we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves, which broke to the downside. And then we actually saw a smaller structure over here with also 1, 2, 3 waves in it, which broke to the downside. So we have seen consistent correction structures and then breaks to the downside this year with the US dollar, or the dollar index. Where is it likely to stop, and where may it go to? Now, I've got a Fibonacci on here for us to see the retracement levels. I've got a fib on here, and we can see that the 38.2 retracement level has actually broken, this being on the daily time frame. So we have actually seen a break of that level and a close below, which could indicate that we would even see further downside, sort of down to the 50% level, which is still quite a distance down in terms of the dollar index. And that could be relative, depending on what data starts coming out of the States at the moment. So let's just zoom in here a little bit and see whether we could, see more clearly exactly what is happening at the moment. And we can see that we had a close below the 38.2 fib level and the 50 being over here. I will wait to see for a structure formation before confirming that we're going to see further downside. So in other words, we could see 1, 2, 3 waves, and a break of a structure like this to the downside would indicate to me that we're probably going to see this level over here on the dollar index. If we do get a structure formation like that and we see a break of it to the upside, I'm quite confident that we will see this trend line over here again, which would in essence then give us a 1-2 wave structure. Whether it stops there or not, we'll have to see when it gets to that point. If it does reverse from there, we could see quite a big move to the downside on the dollar index again, but we'd have to wait and see what happens at this point over here. If price gets to this level and forms another structure and breaks to the upside, I believe that the dollar index will be on quite a recovery from that point, and we could see a strong move up in the dollar versus the euro, etc. But at this point in time, I'm waiting to see what happens at this level on the dollar index, and tonight's FOMC is definitely going to be very, very important. So the first thing, like I said, is that I doubt very, very much there's going to be a rate hike this evening. The second thing is we'll have to wait and listen to whether they're going to start reducing asset purchases or quantitative easing. And then obviously the last and third thing is how they address the inflation target issue. So those are the things that I'm going to be watching for with FOMC tonight. Guys, I'm not trading before that. I'm not entering any positions. If you are in any positions, please make sure that you have your stop loss levels in place and trade with care. Probably not advisable to trade the FOMC tonight unless you really know and understand the fundamentals behind it. Thanks for watching this video, and if you found it useful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Also feel free to leave comments in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this video or any suggestions that you may have regarding the videos that we post. And then last but not least, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you are notified of any future content that we upload. Take care and trade with care. Cheers.